Now we're going to cut the tenon to the ends of these. I'll cut the haunch one and show you how we form the haunch on the tenon. So we got that light knife pass we made. Now we can strengthen it. So those are my shoulders. Make sure they meet exactly on the corner, which they do perfectly. Then set your gauge. Now setting this gauge can be a bit tricky, but you've already got it set to the mortise hole, so it should be the same for the tenon. So all we have to do now is center this in equidistance from each side. So loosen the set screw, eyeball it for center first of all, and then just press those two pins right into there and turn this around. And I have a 1/32 distance too short, so I move it a little bit longer. And now I'm in the center, so now I can run my gauge line here. 1, 2, and 3. So that's my, I don't know if you can see them there. I'll run a pencil line in for you. I like to cut the shoulders on my tenons first, and you see the value of this knife wall. The whole time you're working, you always have this knife wall, because it's going to guide you with all your subsequent cuts. You just pass me that hammer there. Thank you. So I define that knife wall a little bit deeper, like this. Very simple. This works so nicely. You don't have to hit the other wall. You just chisel and then use the natural splitting property of the wood and flick them out. So I've got a little step down there, and that guides my saw. Now I'm going to make a stop on my bench to saw against, because it can be a little bit awkward. This is my temporary bench. The nice thing is, when you've got your laminated tops ready, they do add some substance to whatever you're working from. So here I'm using a regular hand saw. Normally you would be using a tenon saw for this, but this is what we have to hand. Try not to go below your gauge line, because once you do, you're weakening your tenon, you're reducing its substance. Flip over and do the same again. Just a light tap, equal and opposite forces here. Use everything. Once we get the bench made and we got the vices, I just took delivery of the vices today, so alright, I'm going to show you two ways to cut this tenon. One is the very conventional way, where you take the saw and you saw across the top. Now I'm a little bit limited here because of I've got no vise and I have no extra hands, nobody to hold it for me. So I'm going to do something here that's not conventional, but it'll work for me. It may be a struggle. That's the whole point of this. This is you and me really working wood. It's real woodworking, and we're working with solid wood. So whichever one of these we choose. Now this one has a slight knot in it, so I'm going to use the saw on this one and I go on the waist side of my line, which is this side of the line, and saw from the back towards my chest, and gently lower that saw into the top fibres. Once I've gone across and gone in a little bit, I start to drop my hand here to come along this face, keeping my eye on the top at the same time, taking care not to catch any part of the clamp. Now I've gone down far enough, I can go across with confidence here. This saw's 90 years old. Listen. So I'm down. Now the other way is to split this. This takes a little bit of confidence. We need to chop here. So what we do is halfway into the tenon we split like that, and we take a direction of the grain, and if it's splitting to our advantage, same on this side, so we can go across the whole of this tenon now. This is dead simple, this is basic woodworking. So now I move up towards the tenon cheek gradually. Now I've got the very centre of the tree here, which is always a little bit risky because it's not quite so predictable. So now I'm going directly into those gauge lines, right in. I'm not hesitating, straight in. Same on this one. Now this is up to you. You can be a bit more cautious if you want to. I just feel a confidence that this is going to work for me. And now we've got to pare down this face, and you can take this out, but that's how you split or saw your tenon. So I need to take a little bit off my shoulders there, and then I'll need to trim up the face with my poor man's router, and I'll show you how that works on a tenon now. The shoulder wasn't quite deep enough there. Now it's done. So I want to take off some of the face, maybe, I'm not sure. I've gone close to my lines, so I'm pretty close, but I have to test it in the mortise hole, and that's what we're going to do. Here's the mortise. We're going to do a haunch mortise or a haunch tenon. So this has got to go in here. Ugh. So I just check it corner to corner. It's going to be very close, this, but I don't want to split this top here. It would be very easy if this is tightening up here, then it would split down here, and I don't really want that to happen, although if it did, it wouldn't be the end of the world. It just would be disappointing. So what I want to do is make sure the tenon is equal all the way through, and the way I do that is with a router. Now you can use a regular router. The problem is that most of them are too short, so using a poor man's router like this, and you set it to the right depth, which that is obviously too shy, so setting it isn't complicated. Now it's hitting, but I need to anchor this to the bench top, so I'm going to use clamps again. These clamps are great, they're very inexpensive. You can usually buy these for, I don't know, £7, $7 if you're in the US. Harbour Freight, several different places really. So a couple of clamps just to secure it down, and you might want clamps securing the bench top to your picnic table or whatever you're using. Now here, I have to move this again. I'm using this length here to register this against. So this guarantees that I don't go too deep. So here you can see what's happening. That's where my line was and I was cutting there. Here you can see how this works like nothing else. Nothing comes close to this. So I'm guaranteeing that this face is dead parallel to this face. Now this is technique. That knot was hanging me up a little bit. So in the corner here, take my knife just to sever those fibres that are hanging up there. And those will just fall out. See, I've got a pristine tenon now. I know it's exactly parallel, perfectly parallel. So I'm going to flip over. But first I want to test it in the mortise hole again, because I may not need to take anything off that other face. So I go in here. See, that's going just fine really. And so is that one. I'm still going to check just to make sure there's nothing that's too high. Let's see what we've got here. A couple of little spots there. Is it too high? I think that might hang me up inside, so I'm just taking off a little bit here. I'm going against some grain there, so now I just use my chisel just to feather off. There's a knot there. No router likes a knot, so I've got my tenon ready for cutting the haunch. The cutting the haunch is dead simple. It's so simple. Here what we do, make sure we've got the top edge. Offer this into the hole now, like this. Then we want to mark here. That's the width of the tenon, so I'm going to be taking this part out. Then to get my depth, I come in here like this and make a mark inside the seat of that haunch there. And then in both counts I can make a parallel line using my thumb and my finger like this. So now I need to cut this away. Yeah then. Sorry about that noise. And cross grain, I'm going to leave my haunch shy of the depth, a 1/16 of an inch. There's no need for this to be any higher, so I'll be glad when the bench is finished, because then I'll have a vise and I'll have my third hand that I rely on so much for. Okay. A little bit tight. If it's a little tight, you really don't want it tight this way. You want it snug this way. So I'm just a little bit tight on the top there. Now I'm just going to take a fraction off here. Now this tenon's never been in this hole, so let's see. it goes. I think that's good. Use a block of wood on the end here. No, I think that's wonderful. A little bit more. Just to seat that joint. I'm on top of the other. But they're just sticking past a little bit so it's hitting the bench top. And there is my haunched tenon. And I'm ready to do the round over on this bottom tenon. So I want to show you how we do that now.